welcome everybody. Prophecy in the Spotlight here. I'm Pastor Brother Dan Goodwin, Evangelist Dan Goodwin, and Dr. Hilt has changed. He doesn't look the same today. We have a guest with us, Miss Katie DePew, right? Am I pronouncing that right? Katie DePew.
Yes, that's exactly right.
That's got some French in it, I bet.
So as soon as I married into it, I knew I would be spelling it and pronouncing it for the rest of my life, but he was worth it. He does have some French lineage.
I'm 3/4 French. Yeah, my mom is 100% French, and my dad's got some in him. And so I learned some French words growing up. Some that my mom now she watches sometimes, so I got to be careful. But some of the words that we learned growing up that my mom would use when she was a little upset. Now we'll say them and say, "Don't say that." I say, "Oh, what is that word?" But anyway, we are glad to have you. We've brought you in today because you've written a book, and we're going to do a TV show with you in just a few minutes. But we like to do these little updates that are just for YouTube to introduce the audience, and it gives us a chance to give some more content because the TV show is 27.5 minutes. That's all you get. So tell us about you, where you are, and what church you go to, and what's going on in your life, and then we'll get into the book here.
Yeah. Well, my name's Katie. I go to Victory Baptist Church in Carterville, Illinois. I'm married. This year we're going to celebrate 10 years of being married, and I have 2 children. I tell people I am the mom of 1 boy and 1 dinosaur. My second, he knows his role.
Now he's going to grow up, and he might get a complex about that. So
I think he would think it was funny.
He might say, well, "Look, I'm Tyrannus Rex, or whatever you call that one with all the big teeth and everything." But Tyrannosaurus Rex, I think that's what it is. But now, I believe you're about 35. I think my daughter said you were 35.
I'm 34.
Hey, she was
but
close.
Not too far off.
I think it was actually Michael. My daughter's husband said you were 35. So you'll have to say something to him tomorrow that you're not as old as he thinks you are. So anyway, you go to the same church that my daughter Sarah goes to, Sarah and Michael.
Yeah.
And we've been there several times, and really nice church. I like the pastor, and I like a lot of men in the church. And that's very healthy. There's a lot of young men and families, young families. There's some old folks too, but it's a church with a lot of middle-aged young people and people that got zeal and excitement. And you play some instruments.
I do. So I had a friend of mine ask me, "Miss Katie, how many instruments do you play?" And I told him all of them.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't ask how many I played well. My main instrument is the trumpet. I've been playing that for, 11 years now. Piano and auto harp. I just love instruments. I'll try to play any one that you give me.
Yeah, well, I know I've seen you play the trumpet and the auto harp. I don't think I've seen you with anything else in there. And you always seem to leave before it's done. I don't know, you have to go somewhere, or maybe you have a class or something, but it seems like you leave before the song service is over. You get up and I'm not sure why, but...
That's just actually to keep things nice and smooth, because as soon as the song service is over, the people are coming up to sing. So I'm trying to be discreet, I guess you could say.
Okay. All right, well, it's a mystery. All right, so you wrote a book. You grew up in California.
Southern California. I was born in San Diego.
I've been to San Diego a couple of times, and it's like another country out there.
Why do you say that?
I don't know, it's just different. When I'd been in town and saw the people, and it just seemed like, it just didn't seem like you seemed like you had gone south of the border, and a lot of Hispanic people, different languages, and of course different culture.
Yeah.
Different culture.
Yep.
We call it the left coast, but anyway. So you grew up there. And we've got some pictures. I don't know if we're going to put them on for this, but on the TV show, we're going to put some pictures of you when you was young. I think there's one with you 12 years old with the trumpet in your hand. So you learned instruments a long time ago.
Yeah.
Now, you say you play all instruments. You can really play anything? A French horn and a tuba and a clarinet.
What I meant was I love music, so I would attempt to play anything, but only proficiently: trumpet, auto harp, piano.
All right. Well, I haven't.
Kazoo. I can play the kazoo.
Kazoo. Well, I remember those. Yeah. I've never seen you play. You don't play the piano at church. I've only seen you with the trumpet and I guess the auto harp a time or two. But so let's talk about your book here. It's called Free Indeed. My wife will put the picture up there for us. Free Indeed, a testimony of God's mercy and grace. And let me read the back cover. The personal testimony of Katie DePew is an inspirational story of God's love and forgiveness. Seeking an escape from inner turmoil, Katie turned to all the world had to offer, only enabling her life to spiral out of control. It wasn't until God began to show Katie that peace only comes through His love, forgiveness, and mercy that she truly became free indeed. Of course, you've got that scripture in here out of John, I believe it is. The truth shall make you free.
Yeah.
And so tell us, what's the book about, and why did you write this?
Yeah, the book is about my life, and I meet a lot of people, especially more now since I've written my book. I get to sit down and talk to people about their story. And everybody has a story. Mm-hmm. And there are some things in my past that I might like to go back and change if I could, but I came to a point where I realized I can't change my story, so I might as well let it be used of God for His glory, right. And also to be something that would bring others to Jesus, because God was very, very good to me in spite of some bad decisions I had made, and I want to share that with others.
Now, when I read this book, there were some shocking things in here. Mm-hmm. There were places that really brought me to tears because I'm thinking of a young girl. 12, 15, whatever you were when all this really got bad. I've got stuff highlighted in here. No one really noticed the signs. No one had the faintest idea that things were about to break. This is you speaking about things going bad in your life, but yet you said nobody noticed the signs. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about this in the show, but what can parents, teachers, pastors, friends, what can they do to be more susceptible to seeing the signs that somebody's having trouble in their life?
I would say to those people, paying attention and showing that you care will go just a very long way. If you work in any kind of a bus ministry or at a school, even just going to Walmart, you'll notice people that you can tell they're just struggling and they're very burdened down with something. And I think there might be a lot of people out there who care, but they just don't know what to say. They might observe something's going on, but how do I handle it, and how are they going to react? I would say just taking the time to talk with someone who might be kind of a loner, having a hard time with their friendships, having a hard time in school, just taking the time to speak with them and get to know why they might be struggling, and to provide more support, and of course support through the church to that individual.
Now, a lot of people that grew up with some of the struggles that you grew up with, they may even be in a good home. How come nobody sees it? How come somebody can wind up as far down the road as you did, and so many people in your life didn't see it? Mm-hmm. What are we missing? Shouldn't there be something in your eyes, or you're depressed, or shouldn't we see something, some warning signs?
Now that I'm a mom, I can relate to that question you just brought up. I think when it's our own children, you want to believe the best. And if you do notice some things are off, you're probably already working with that child to help them through whatever their struggles are. But I think one of the biggest things is that children may not even have the words or the awareness to properly communicate exactly what it is that they're going through. Yeah. So for me, I didn't have words to say, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I don't know if I can do this, I'm depressed, I'm anxious. those kinds of things. I didn't know how to even tell anybody. That was something that I learned later as an adult. And with my children, I try to at least give them the words. You will not believe it. My 3-year-old will be walking around like throwing a little grumpy fit, and he'll say,
"Is this the dinosaur?"
The dinosaur, and he'll say, "I'm frustrated." He'll say, "I'm angry." And I try not to come down on him too hard about it, because I'm just so happy that he's at least coming to us about it. You know, we work through it, whatever it is.
Right at the beginning of your book here, I mean, you don't even give us a break. You show it, you open up your life on the first pages here. Let me just read this. "I was trapped in an abusive relationship with a drug dealer. My father had told me he had an agreement with the police to intercept me if I came within a mile of his house. I can't say I was hopeful. I don't even think I wanted to live. This world is a cruel place. Once you have had your heart ripped out so many times, it's hard to feel much of anything anymore. Yet somehow, out of the despair, a small voice cried, 'Help.'" Well, that's moving right there. This was you at what age? 16?
19.
19. 19, I mean, that's desperation. That's on the verge of almost wanting to end your life and just wanting to get out of this thing. How many people are actually in this condition, do you think?
I think more than you would think, Brother Dan, if I had to be honest. I think there are people in churches who have even been to this point of hopelessness, and I think it's really good that we're opening up the conversation now for people to come forward and say, yes, I'm struggling and I could use some help.
Yeah. Now, the next page, the title is called A Safe Place. And without even reading it, of course, I'm a preacher, and I wrote in the book, I wrote 3 points here. There's 3 places that ought to be a safe place: the home, the church, and the school. But I'm afraid that a lot of times those are not safe places for some of our children out there, are they? And
I spoke to a lady through one of my ministries this week that unfortunately shared with me that her children had been sexually abused in the home environment. So you wish it would never happen to you or someone you love, but things like that can happen. And furthermore, you mentioned the school. I had so many internal struggles. I don't think it would have mattered where I was. I really never felt safe. And as I was studying the effects that trauma can have on us as an adult, one of the flags sort of about someone who's been through a trauma experience is that this feeling that there is no safe place. And that's really how I felt as a child. I felt very afraid, and that there was really nowhere to run to. But I dreamed of something like that.
I can't imagine living like that. I mean, I never had those feelings. I did a lot of dumb things, and me and my brother. But I mean, I never felt like I wasn't safe. And I went through discouragement like everybody else did, and and puppy love, and the same things that all boys and girls go through in school. But I never felt like I wanted my life to end or anything like that. But yet somehow you got into that atmosphere, and even you talk in the book about cutting yourself with glass and things. I mean, I can't fathom that. What causes a person? What causes that to happen?
Yes, let me try to summarize. So when you get to that level of mental illness, if I could call it that, for me it started with feelings of anxiety, depression, feeling like I was not accepted by my peers, and that just kind of grew, feeling like I was not accepted by anyone anywhere, and it grew even further to a self-hatred. And so when I used self-injury as a coping mechanism, it was a manifestation of that hatred I had towards myself, but also, even though it sounds really strange, the act of doing that gave me something else to focus on mentally, and it seemed to, it was like something I could control, and it seemed to take my mind off of the other problems and scary things that I felt like I could not control.
See, I would have thought sometimes a person injures himself, not just to hurt themselves, but to hurt somebody that's in their life that they're mad at, or they feel like they're not giving me attention. That's not what it was for you.
I wouldn't describe it like that, but the mind is very complex, and I'm sure someone else has had that experience.
Yeah. sometimes we'll hurt ourselves just to get back at mom and dad or somebody in our life, a spouse or whatever. So, so this cutting, and you got a page in here where you talk about these other girls that you met, and I guess you got the idea from them, it sounded like.
We had both been attending an outpatient mental health program. So it was at a psychiatric facility, but we didn't stay the night there. And when I had been recommended to go there, I was already involved in drugs, self-injury, and things. So you bring a bunch of kids together that are already probably on the wrong path, and you just like put them together. And the goal is hopefully, since they can relate to each other, it would be a positive thing. But there's always people wherever you go that aren't there for the right reasons. So we fed off each other in that way.
Big help, huh?
Oh, well.
Yeah. So, but the good news is the story doesn't end here, does it? Later on in life, in your 20s, I think, or 19, 20s, when you met some people at church, you want to tell a little bit of that?
Yeah, so if I could go back a few years even from that, I had been using drugs. I was actually using meth with a lady, so a drug person just like me, and we're not living right or anything, but I had just been telling her about my problems, and she said, Katie, if you ever need help, go to a good church, because that's what they're there for. And at the time, I really didn't want anything to do with church, but I think I kind of filed it away, and as I got more and more hopeless with my own life circumstances, there came a time when I was ready to hear from God. So another drug friend, believe it or not, had picked me up one day and tried to encourage me with just with my struggles, and she's like, hey, my grandma wants you to have this, and it was a brand new Bible wrapped in plastic and all, and I thought that was a little strange. I didn't really know her grandma, but I accepted the gift. And then she just asked me, would you like to come to church with me? And I told her, yes, I would. And once I got there, the pastor preached on John 15, Jesus being the vine. And there wasn't anything particular about his preaching that caught my attention, but I had an internal sense that my life was just a big mess and there might be answers here. So after church, I went to talk to the pastor, and I was telling him all my woes. My life's a mess. I'm on drugs. I'm hurting. And he took his hand like this, and he stopped me right there, and he said, you don't need to tell this to me. You need to tell it to God. And that was the point where he opened the Bible and brought me through the book of Romans that talks about our lost condition and our separation from God because of our sin. And I'd heard the story of Jesus, but I had never thought about it this way, that when Jesus died on the cross for us, he paid for all of our sins, and it was like he was making a bridge back to God for us. And it wasn't hard for me to admit to God that I was a sinner, because I was living in the mess that I had created. But to accept that someone else out of love paid the price and forgave me of all those horrible things I had done, I mean, it was really just mind-blowing. So that day, just like it says in Romans 10:13, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. I called on him in prayer and confessed my sins and asked him to save me, and Jesus did. And it was like the emptiness and the hopelessness that I had faced before, he just started taking out of my life little by little, until here I am today. Of course, I'm married to one of the lay preachers of our church, and we're raising our kids with that same hope.
Yeah, what a testimony, from the road you were on to the new road that led past a cross. And you came to a cross, and you knelt at that cross, and a brand new road opens up for you. And that's I'll tell you why I was interested in your story, because we're a prophecy program, and the reason I'm interested in this, we're in the last days, and the Bible says in the last days perilous times shall come, and there's a whole list of things in that passage. Men should be lovers of their own selves, a whole list of things there. And I believe that your story fits that perfectly, because this is what life is like now for so many people. I think it's worse now than it's ever been in the history of the world. I think what's happening, and Satan is he knows his days are numbered, and he's just attacking people. Of course, America's thrown God out of our country. We kicked him out of our schools. We kicked him out of our homes, and your average church today is half dead. I mean, it's just, your average church today, it seems like a person couldn't even get saved there. If they went, they wouldn't hear anything. And so I think your book and your testimony is very realistic and very needful right now. And I want to say this to the audience out there. I think this book is important in these last days, because I think there's some moms and some grandmas out there watching this, and I think you've got kids and grandkids that need this book. And I want to encourage you to go on the website, order this book. Maybe get 2 or 3 of them. They're not expensive. We got to add a little bit for shipping, but if you order more than one, we're going to give you a great deal on them. What I want you to do is I want you to read this, grandma or mom or dad, whoever you are. I want you to read it. And then I want you to decide who needs it in your family or people that you know. You got a child that maybe is depressed, or maybe just you feel like you've lost them, you've lost influence, like there's a distance there. It could be this book could help them. Miss Katie, if this book existed when you were 19, do you think, if you read this, do you think this would have done something for you?
I do. There's been several points in my life where I was really burdened down with something, where it was like I just needed to hear somebody say the words out loud that I had been thinking, because I felt very alone. And this book talks about a lot of topics that are maybe not pleasant dinner conversation, but for some people they need to be had. Self-injury, abortion, drugs, getting in with the wrong crowd, those things like that. And also on the back cover of the book, there is the plan of salvation written out. So I talk about it, of course, with my experience, but it gives some additional Bible verses to where a person, just by reading it, could pray to be saved.
Okay. So, and I'll ask you this in the next show, but who did you write this for? Who's this book for?
This book is for broken people.
Okay. And I want the parents and the grandparents that are watching, I want them to read it, to realize what's going on out there. I think a lot of our older generation doesn't understand what's really happening with some of their loved ones. And I think they're falling through the cracks, and I think they go off and they go out with their friends and they come home at night, and I think there's some parents and grandparents, they know there's something going on, but they don't know what, and I think this could open their eyes. And boy, if we could get this in the hands of our teenagers. What do you do? I'm thinking 13 and up. What are your thoughts on who should read this book?
Yeah, I think that would be a fair assessment. There's nothing in there really grotesque. I tried to be very tactful when broaching those certain topics.
Yeah. But it is a very serious book, and I think a 13-year-old and up, this will be very, very applicable for them. Okay, well, we're going to do a show for television, and we're going to try to get your story out there. Folks, this is Katie DePew. She's written a book, and I hope you'll go check it out. It's on our website. Free indeed. I've read it at least twice, I guess, and made a lot of notes in here, and we didn't get to half of it, but we'll get to more of this in the show to follow. But there were some times it was very moving and some very sad, and sometimes man, don't do that. What are you doing?
I know.
And you say, why are you doing that? Why are you with this guy? You know. But there are things that people need to know about. This could really help some people. And before we go, you're working in you have a jail ministry that you're involved in.
Yes.
I'm guessing that's a ladies' jail, and you go in there and you share your story, and you counsel with them, and you help those young ladies, and that's a wonderful thing. You know, as bad as some of this stuff is, God used this to put you in a position to help some people, didn't He? And we're very thankful for that. All right, well, thanks for coming on, Miss Katie, and sharing some of your story here. And
thanks for having me.
All right. Well, folks, that's it, and we're going to do a show here. It'll be right here on YouTube as well. We're on CTN every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're also going on in Little Rock, Hot Springs, and Victory Television Network, VTN, the end of May. So that's coming right up as well. And we're on the radio, and we're going to do a radio program with her as well. So until next time, keep your eyes on them skies.